Um, I'll go quick on this one so we can watch some video here in a heartbeat. So I went a little longer there than I wanted to. But how to help your lacrosse goalies keep focused. Now, I can't remember who asked me this question. It came in on Facebook this week. And I wish I could remember and maybe I could find it. But this is a great question. I think we covered this a few months ago, but I thought I'd go in a little bit more detail here. But the idea here is that sometimes goalies lose focus. And the surprising thing, a lot of people think that just applies to young goalies. It doesn't. It doesn't. 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, time flies. Um, uh, t- this is from Rick Gross in Silver Springs, Maryland. But 2 or 3 years ago, I worked with a college age goalie who was having trouble with focus. And so your goalie might be six, and uh, um, your goalie might be six and lose focus, right? And they might be like squirrel or flowers, or puppy dogs or whatever. But it can happen at any age, right? So a couple things. Mary James, quick comment here for the last one. Have a U11 guy and want a coach to harness his potential. Hard to find really great coaches on club teams to work with goalies. You know, it's true, Mary. You guys are, where are you guys, in the East Coast? I think, can't remember exactly, but they're out there, right? They're out there, and I'm trying to change the game one goal at a time. So we'll get there. So you're in the right place, Mary. So I appreciate you here. All right. So how to make sure your goalie keeps focus when they play. All right. Now, number one, number one is sleep. All right. Number one is sleep. Now you're probably thinking, I'm going to get to the lacrosse specific stuff, but if I can't address the lacrosse specific stuff if these things aren't in order. Okay. Like, too many people worry about symptoms and not causes. And when it comes to goaltending, your goalie needs to be the sharpest kid on the field every single day, or else it becomes a problem, right? It becomes a huge problem. So the number one thing is your athlete needs to be getting enough sleep for them. Okay. Now we all know, and every parent I know, I hear this collective groan here when I say this, because everybody kind of pretty much is assured their kid's not getting enough sleep as much sleep as they should be getting. And we have phones and all sorts of stuff. And that keep us up at night, and there's light issues, and now we're going into winter and kids are getting up in the dark, they're getting out of school in the dark sometimes. Like, it's just not good, right? So it's a very challenging time of year. All right, but even in the spring when we got a little bit more daylight, sleep is still an issue. So you can't address focus if you don't address sleep, and so that's really important to understand. The second thing, and a quick resource for all of you, if you guys look for the Huberman Lab podcast, Dr. Andrew Huberman out of Stanford is incredible, and he's got a YouTube channel and a podcast. If you want to learn about like neurobiology and how this affects not only your kid but you as an adult, go check out his stuff out. And the podcast this last week was incredible. Okay. The second thing is diet. Okay. The second thing to consider is diet. If you're, I got a phone call. This was in the spring when, uh, COVID kind of was in and out of this area, and this goalie was having trouble. And the parents were like, I think my goalie has ADHD. And I'm like, well, okay, what's their sleep like? And I'm like, listen, I'm not a doctor, but here, what's sleep like and what's their diet like? And she's like, oh, his diet's horrible. I'm like, well, duh. Get the diet in order. Oh, we can't possibly do that. It's a fight every day. You know what? Fight for it. If you want this thing, if your goalie wants X, then you need to figure out, Y plus Z equals. Okay. So you got to figure that out. So sport is a great anchor to help these things happen. And sometimes as a family, when you have an athlete in your house who really wants to be good at something, as a family, you can start to adopt things that help the whole family. All right, which is really, really cool. Okay. So diet. All right. So really, really, really important. Um, the third thing is what's called a stable circadian rhythm. So if you have sleep intact and you have diet intact, then your circadian rhythm should be consistent. And the more consistent you can make it, the better. If you get a Whoop strap, okay, which I've talked about in past episodes, a Whoop strap, go to whoop.com. Then you can slap that on your kid and you can track them daily for months and see exactly what's going on in that. It's like a Fitbit on steroids, and it's so worth the money. Okay, it's so worth the money. So check it out, whoop.com. The fourth thing, are they happy? Is your goalie happy to be there? Like, are they happy to be on the team, or is something off? Do they want to be there? right? Do they want to be with this program, with this team, or are you just getting through to the next team, or do they hate lacrosse altogether, right? You got to really think about it. Glenn 233 on Instagram. I see, buddy. What's a good diet for goalies? Man, that's a massive topic, Glenn. But if you go check out Dr. Eric Berg on YouTube. Check out Thomas DeLauer on check out marksdailyapple.com. These are things. Check out Dr. Tim Noakes, Noakes, and have a look at that. And then also check out the Huberman Lab podcast. And listen to the last episode because it was very diet focused and talked specifically about new research that's about reduced eating windows and how it affects high performance in athletes as well. So check that out. Okay. Um, are there stresses in their life? Is mom and dad getting divorced? Did they lose their virginity? Did they break up with their girlfriend or their boyfriend? Did they fail their math test? Right? Did they lose their iPhone and they haven't told you yet? Any number of things can be stressors that affect an athlete's focus on the field. Right? It doesn't matter if they're an Olympian or if they're just playing rec lacrosse. Right? That it's a big deal. So you got to ask that too. Uh, so the work that I do at athletespecific.com works with that, right? You've got to understand all that to have good athletic performance. You have all this stuff going on. And one of the things that we discount as coaches and athletes is that, like, if your athlete, like, let's say they've got a big tournament that's coming up this weekend, you're going to go play some event, but they've got 2 exams this week. Well, that's a stress as well. A lot of people look at their kids and don't think like that. They don't realize that, oh, my kid's at this age now where they go to a party and there's maybe some alcohol involved. Well, that's another stressor, right? You got to think of these things, right? So you got to think of all these things. Um, um, okay, this is an important one. Does your goalie see a path towards success, like being a better goalie? Because if they feel like they're just getting beaten, they're getting beat up every day in practice or in games, and they're not getting better, or they're kind of like, "What the hell am I doing this for?" Then um, that's going to affect their focus as well. Right? I had this really good female lacrosse goalie a couple years ago. No, sorry, this is last year. Oh, dang it. Um, COVID's totally thrown off my recollection of past events. This is 3 years ago. Um, One of the top goalies in her state, and went off to a Ivy League school, and then COVID hit, and then she had a pregnancy scare, right? Like, and wondered why she wasn't doing well with lacrosse. And I'm like, dude, right? Come on. So you got to ask you got to understand these things, right? But at that point in time, there was so much stress in her life. She was wondering if lacrosse was even worth it now. The abuse she was taking in lacrosse was worth it, right? She was getting beat up in practice. I think she had a concussion at one point, but was kind of like, really? Do I care anymore? All right, so you got to think of that. Okay. Does your goalie have any medical issues? ADHD. I'm not a fan of medicines, but sometimes it can help an athlete put an athlete on track. But again, like I said, it shouldn't be your first go-to. It should be after sleep and diet and everything is stable. Then you figure that out. Okay. A question here. Brendan Cullen, and there you are, buddy. Whoopstrap. I love it. Facebook. Okay, who's that? I can't tell who that is. But Dan Baker, how do you get a team to realize that warming up a goalie does not mean 15 guys just randomly cranking on the goalie? That's a coaching thing, man. You got to talk to the coach. The coach has to set up a tone, has to set up a system and a reason, and it's got to have a plan. Listen, like, I don't like when I coach teams, I don't warm up the goalie independently. I warm up the goalie through the team, right? Because I realize that the goalie needs to learn that language, not my language, not my shooting language. So you got to do that. So that's got to come right from the coaches, and it's got to go right into the team, right? That way, a coach can be watching the goalie and be watching the shooters and be developing a level of respect. So Dan, you got now box lacrosse is a little different. Box lacrosse takes on like the ice hockey warm up, and again, that should be better, but a lot of times those warm ups suck too. So, yeah, totally suck. Um, when I took over the National Sport Academy in Calgary, Alberta, and I had all these box lacrosse players, I did not play box. I did not coach box. I I took this quick crash course and downloaded like 20 DVDs about box lacrosse and goalies, and I was shocked at how goalies are taught. And I did things a certain way, and kids were like, "What the hell is this?" But by the end of the fall, after I had taken over, the goalies were better, faster. The shooters now were accountable to their shots, right? Because if they're hitting the goalie, how are you going to score when we need you in a game? Right? So that's a good question, Brendan or Dan. Okay, really important. Okay, all right. So couple of cross specific tricks. And to Dan's point here, one, have they had a good warm up? Do they feel like they're ready for it? And warm up starts before you even hit the field. Okay, do they feel courageous about the situation? All right, it's not confidence they need; it's courage going into that practice or that game. If they have that, it should be a good day. If they lack courage because they're underprotected or they're understaffed or they're underloved, all that stuff is going to affect them. Okay, are they standing around too much? If your goalie's on a field and they're not utilizing the goalie enough, right? Which a goalie should be getting shot on like every single rep, right? A goalie should be involved in every single play on a field. It doesn't take a lot of creativity, but it takes some creativity, right? And if your coach doesn't know how to do that, then I feel bad for you. But if they're standing around too much, get them involved outside the cage, right? Drop their drop their stick and pick up a short stick. Coach doesn't want you running a drill with your goalie. I don't care, right? Whatever. Get them more involved, okay? And then in games and scrimmages and stuff like that, when the ball's in the other end of the field, get your goalie out of the crease, up towards out past the 8 meter, out towards the restraining line, get them up the field so they have worry, right? Because what happens is when your goalie loses focus, their brain waves are all they're all over the place, right? And so we want a level of attention, a level of arousal, right? A level of mental arousal so that they're involved, right? But it's a complex thing. And when you look at all these things that I've just laid out here, and then you look at your goal, you go okay, what are we doing? How can we get you more focused? Realize where the drop off is. Is it sleep? Is it diet? All right. Are they getting a lot of sleep, but maybe on some days and not others? Are their weekends off? Do they eat like crap on the weekend and Monday, Tuesday are a mess? Right? Do they want to be there? Do they have any stress right now? Right? Is something going on in the family? Is Aunt Nona dying or whatever? You gotta have all that stuff. If all those boxes are ticked, then you get in the lacrosse specific stuff and go, okay, what do we got to do here? Right? Do we need to be more protected? We got to use you more. Because if the coach is just if the coach doesn't know what to do, then your goalie's going to have to find ways to be creative and make things work, right? Make things work. Okay. So any questions on that, you can post them here. And then also if you want to check out my website, athletespecific.com. All right. I get into more stuff in the mental side of sports and the whole athlete. Okay. All right. All right, guys. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening wherever you are. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you like this, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. When you're ready, head on over to lacrossegoalieuniversity.com/coaching so I can work with you and your goalie. And while you're at it, check out athletespecific.com to learn more about mental performance and high performance. You may not know this, but I work with athletes in a variety of sports. Lacrosse is my love, but man, I love athletes and the families who support them. So head on over to athletespecific.com, check it out. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.